Thanks for stopping by Minnesota Black Robe Regiment. As always, make sure you're subscribed, checking out the bell icon to get notifications if you are subscribed. Like, comment, and share. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just over it. I'm finished. Here's what's going on. As you know, I put out a video a couple of days ago talking about the backroom deal that Paul Gazelka, basically the Senate Majority Leader here in the state of Minnesota, kind of came to this backroom deal, and he codified many of the governor's coup restrictions and their penalties, and used that to, should we say, kind of come to a budget agreement with the leftists in the House and the Senate, and the leftists in the executive branch of the People's State of Marxisota ruling elite. And so then overnight on Tuesday night, it is now July 1st of 2021. So it's 7/1/2021. And overnight on Tuesday night, the Minnesota legislature, the House of Representatives, voted unanimously, DFLers and Republicans alike, to end the governor's peacetime emergency powers. No conciliations, no nothing. It's just over. So what we have is over here in the Senate, the Senate is codified by an amendment, the governor's executive orders, making many of the penalties actually law now, if that amendment actually passed. I can't find anything on it right now, and no one, of course, wants to talk about it. And then overnight on Tuesday night, the governor's powers are stripped from him by the House and the Senate. Well, the governor saw it coming, and he said, "Oh well, I was gonna end him early anyway, so here I'm just gonna end him now on July 1st." So here we sit, July 1st. Governor's emergency peacetime powers are done. Now, keep in mind, according to the Chapter 12 of the Minnesota state statutes, he has the power to reintroduce those peacetime emergency powers anytime he wants, without authorization from the House or the Senate. He can just step in and do it now, again, whenever he wants. And remember, we got this new strain of the coof out there that everybody's freaking out about. So don't think for a minute that he doesn't have that in his grimy, grubby, sausage tip fingers, and that he's not holding on to that, ready to institute it again. And don't think for a minute that the House is just automatically going to vote to end it. And if they do, he can just the very next day reinstate it. Like, this is just a stupid game that we're playing. But here's the problem. Like I said in my last video, we have a whole group of people who have already suffered immensely under these orders. And I was talking via a chat, a group chat yesterday, with one of those victims, which is Lisa Monet Zarza. Now, my understanding is the former owner of what used to be the Alibi Drinkery and the Froggy Bottoms in Northfield. It's my understanding that those businesses, she just got to the point where she just had to sell them. She couldn't keep up the fight anymore. And she says, who's this hurting besides the people that have given up so much? And you know what? She's right. To a large part, the people of Minnesota have returned to their lives as normal. Nothing's freaking normal about this, people. But people like Lisa Monet, people like Lisa Hansen, people like Larvita McFarquhar, they continue to have to fight. And here's the deal. Lisa Hansen has done nothing criminal. What started this entire criminal process for Lisa Hansen, and the stuff that Lisa Monet has fought and the stuff that Larvita is fighting, what started this entire criminal process was an asinine ability granted to the governor by the Minnesota legislature, the House and the Senate, years ago, that should have never been done. And I'm very thankful Duke Powell, the man who authored the bill, is reached out and is going to talk to me, still going to talk to me. He just got back to Minnesota. We are going to sit down and we are going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the foresight of why he chose to author the bill and why was for it. And we're also going to talk about why I think he was wrong, and he's going to talk about maybe where he lacked foresight and didn't do enough at the time. And and we've already discussed this, so this won't come as a surprise to Duke. He knows where I'm coming from, but he will be on. But here's the deal, and I'm just gonna hone in especially on Lisa Hansen, because I have been intricately involved in a lot of what she's going on, not in like controlling anything, but just I talk to her on a pretty regular basis, and I know what she's going through. The city of Albert Lea is still prosecuting her. They're still prosecuting her. The city attorney of Albert Lea is still prosecuting her. This could go away if the city attorney would just drop it. Is this really worth it anymore? Why? Why is the city of Albert Lea allowing Lisa Hansen to continue to be prosecuted? And let's talk about this a little bit, okay? So on one hand, we have a business owner. Granted, she didn't employ, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 people, like, some of the manufacturing facilities in the city of Albert Lea do. But she provides services to the people, and she did provide work to people. And the people that work for her, and there again, you're going to always find that one person who just absolutely despises their former employer. It's next to impossible to avoid that. So I'm sure somewhere out there's been somebody who worked for Lisa at the Interchange Coffee and Wine Bistro at some point, ran afoul of Lisa, or Lisa ran afoul of them and they don't like her. Okay, it happens. But by and large, the people that work for her love her. They care for her. They care about her. They love their jobs, and they did them with passion. Those people are now without a job that they loved. Lisa is about to lose everything. The city has moved to force her out of the lease, which is their prerogative, based on the fact that she's now ultimately a criminal. So they can force her out. But she's a criminal because they made her a criminal, because the governor made her a criminal that he didn't have the power ultimately really to do, because the governor cannot have legislative power. The governor is not allowed to have legislative power. You have to understand this. You have to wrap this around the spools of your mind as the wheels are turning. Ultimately, even the state constitution of Minnesota does not allow an executive branch member the power to create legislative action, which is what he did with his executive orders. And we talked about this in another video. And the Senate and the House cannot have legislative veto powers. Veto powers belong only to the executive branch. And they flipped the script on us with this stupid bill that they passed that allows for these peacetime emergency powers and everything that he instituted. And so here we sit now with his powers now being forcibly stripped from him. And I might add, people are still suffering the consequences for it. And let's not forget, okay? Let's not forget that the people who didn't fight are still losing, because many of them have lost businesses. I have a good friend. Her name's Melissa. She owns a clothing boutique. She had two businesses before the governor, or had started a second location before the governor instituted his emergency peacetime powers. And she had to close one of her locations because she just couldn't afford to keep two of them open with the crackdown. With the crackdown on small businesses. She couldn't. Of course, the large big box chain corporate stores could afford to stay open because they could absorb it across the spectrum of their businesses. They could absorb a loss across the spectrum of their businesses. They could absorb it through online retail sales. They could absorb it through longer hours. They could absorb it through cutting staff. They could afford to put in self-checkouts. We were in a store that we liked yesterday, and we were commenting, the person I was with we were commenting on, this was the last place we would expect to see self-checkout, but we see it now. But there's self-checkout. All of that aside, businesses these large big box corporations can afford to absorb that stuff. Some of these businesses who chose not to fight and just went along with what the governor did, and that's their prerogative. Bad idea, if you ask me, because you lose your business anyway. But some of these businesses that chose not to fight lost everything, and they're still done. So now the governor doesn't have his powers, and the legislature is sitting there going, "Oh, look at us! We took action finally. Enough is enough. Rah, 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 rah. We did this for you, Minnesota. We accomplished. Look at what we've done." Like, it didn't do anything. The economy is still devastated. There are businesses that can't find people to work because there are still people out there getting more money not working than they would get working. But if that's not Marxism, I don't know what is. If that's not totalitarianism, like, we're going to take care of you and then we don't care what happens to the businesses. Just on and on and on. But the irony of it is, and there again, especially with Lisa Hansen, here she sits. All of this crap is done, and they're still coming after her in Albert Lea. What is going on in Albert Lea? And they just, the other day, the city of Albert Lea just offered a tax abatement to Mrs. Jerry's. There again, as long as they keep their new positions that create, oh, by the way, administrative positions that are being making $70 to $110,000, $120,000 a year. Four positions. And those people have to work throughout the duration of the tax abatement. They can't be terminated or let go. They have to keep those positions filled. So the city manager of Albert Lea, along with the city council of Albert Lea, have agreed to a tax abatement for a corporation because they're doing some remodeling that's going to increase their output. And so they're going to give them a tax break, and they're going after somebody who hasn't broke, really, ultimately isn't a real criminal. I'm supposed to believe that this isn't maliciousness. I'm supposed to believe that the city, somewhere within the city of Albert Lea, I don't know, maybe the city attorney, I don't know. I'm supposed to believe that there isn't something personal in this persecutorial persecution of Lisa Hansen, that somehow this isn't personal. When are the people of Albert Lea going to say enough is enough? I mean, they're in the news story, there are people calling for the city manager of Albert Lea to be terminated, or to at least be disciplined, because they feel like he's not being honest, that he's done some things wrong. Where are the people of Albert Lea rising up and saying, leave Lisa Hansen alone? Where are they? Look, you don't have to agree with Lisa Hansen. You could think she's a crackpot. You could think she's a whack job. You could think whatever you want to think about Lisa Hansen. I don't give a shiny rat's butt what you personally think of her. But think about this. If they can do this to Lisa Hansen, they can do it to you. They can do it to you. When are you going to get that into your minds? Somebody on that city council, the mayor of Albert Lea, somebody has got to step up, and they have to say enough is enough. Drop the charges, and this is an order. We're ordering you to drop the charges because this is going to cost us. It's going to cost us our positions, whatever. If you're worried about keeping your position as a city council member or as a mayor, you should be concerned right now that people are going to say, we're going to get rid of you because you are letting the city attorney run roughshod over a citizen. Over what? For what? What great crime did she commit? Not to mention the fact that now the governor's powers are gone. So everything that started all of this in the first place is gone. There's no more coof pandemic. There's people are getting vaccinated all over the place. We've come back to normal, whatever that means. You should just say, enough's enough. We're going to drop this. Now, it won't do anything for all the money that Lisa has already spent. Even though she's defending herself, she's spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. It won't do anything about the fact that she's lost her business. Like, they're going to continue to take her business from her while they give a tax abatement to another business. Let that sink in. Persecute Lisa Hansen, tax abatement for Mrs. Jerry's. Say it one more time. persecute Lisa Hansen, tax abatement for Mrs. Jerry's. What the actual Fauci is happening in Albert Lea? And why aren't the people of Albert Lea at every freaking city council meeting demanding action? If people can rise up and demand that the city manager be disciplined or fired for his activities, why aren't they saying the same thing about the city attorney of Albert Lea? Oh, I know it's dangerous. It's dangerous. What if they find out and they get mad and they come after you, right? But it could happen. I mean, they've been taught for the last 8 months that they can do whatever they want to whatever business owner they want, and nobody will do anything. Nobody in that town's rising up to defend anyone because we're sheep. We're sheep. The city council of Albert Lea is full of sheep. The mayor is a sheep. The city attorney is a bully. And Lisa Hansen's the one that's suffering. And so, yeah, sure, she could have prevented all of this and just complied, right? That's always the answer. Just comply. Just comply. Use that with Black Lives Matter next time. Just comply. Nothing bad will happen to you. Right? Let that sink in. The very people calling for the persecution of Lisa Hansen, and I use that word intentionally, the persecution, the very people calling for the persecution of Lisa Hansen are the very people, very people who are telling her, just comply and all this goes away. Just comply and all this goes away. Are the very people who would say, don't tell us, just comply. Don't tell us you're just following orders. Albert Lea, you've got something corrupt and disgusting going on in your city. And if the city council and the mayor won't fix it, then the people of that city need to rise up and to make them fix it. Or are you too scared that you might lose a building? Are you too scared that they might come after you? Are you too scared that maybe they'll trump up some charges on you because they don't like that you're speaking out? Because trust me, I can give you, and I will attest to this, I know of hundreds of people who have had accusations made against them for speaking out against the decisions of public servants. It's happening all over. They trump up accusations to try and silence people. The NSA has been spying on Tucker Carlson, for the love of God. There are people who have lost their jobs or nearly lost their jobs for just being in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. So I get it. It's happening. But it will not stop happening until you rise up and you take the initiative. And I'm not talking about force. I'm talking about voice. Letters to the editor, letters and phone calls to whoever you need to make them to take back your jurisdictions, take back your cities, take back your townships, take back your municipalities, take back your counties. You have to. Otherwise, you just prove that we can't govern ourselves because we're too afraid. Somebody in the city of Albert Lea, has got to say something. Because if they can continue to do this to Lisa Hansen, now that the governor's powers are removed from him, they can do it to you. At any time, for any reason, whenever they want, however they want. No questions asked and no strings attached. You're next, you're out of here. It's got to stop. Fight for your liberties and your freedoms, and sic semper tyrannis. Please listen carefully.